Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Veg Networking Canada, where vegan plant-based companies connect and collaborate. We're going to begin with our land acknowledgement. It is important to acknowledge, honor, and respect that many of us are located on the traditional, ancestral, unceded territories of many Indigenous peoples of Canada. Here we are again, a group of vegan plant-based companies and professionals connecting, collaborating, and we have a special guest today who has a self-proclaimed obsession with health and fitness. He is a natural connector and champion of sharing meaningful experiences, constantly hungry for knowledge and ways to improve his lifestyle. He is a support system for plant-based, vegan, sustainable, eco-friendly brands and nonprofits, and a quarter-century vegan, over 25 years, folks. Veg Networking Canada is pleased to introduce partner and creative director at Jeoto Design, Jim O'Quinn. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you very much. I'm so happy to be here. Like, seriously excited. I've been thinking about this for the whole week and looking forward to meeting you all and sharing my story and seeing how we can all be connected in a way that is meaningful and useful for all of us.
Well, we are happy to hear your story here live, and this will be shared out on the ether of YouTube and LinkedIn and Facebook and all the other places so other people can hear your story as well. But let's dive right into the first question for you. Can you tell Veg Networking Canada and everybody listening more about your vegan origin story?
So my vegan origin story started a very long time ago in 1996. And prior to that, I was typical lover of the sad diet, and I was a healthy person always, but when it came to one meaningful happenstance where a friend of mine had handed me some tapes. Back then it was actual cassette tapes that you played in your car, and I was driving to work and he told me this is a really good thing about health and fitness, because I was still very much into that then. And it was by Anthony Robbins, and the book was called Fit for Life. So the book itself quickly jumped into health, fitness, and things like that. But he started talking about how the animal industry is so toxic for the body, and all the things we already know about the consumption of meat and dairy and things like that, what it does to the body. So I was obviously intrigued, excited right away to listen to it. But I was also, it was all new information to me at the time. So I was shocked and appalled and upset. It took me about 2 days to listen to the whole book. And at the end of that, that was the end of my connection with any animal products whatsoever. And then I was on a huge mission to convert the world at that point. I was standing on top of mountains and screaming at the top of my lungs to get everybody to change their ways. I managed to convince right away my brother and his wife, who was pregnant at the time, and a couple friends. So it worked out really well. And people were listening to me because they were seeing it was affecting me in positive ways. But after that, people's ears started to turn away and life went on for them, but it didn't change for me. So I managed to stay this health lifestyle for 25 years. And I think I've reaped the benefits quite well from it. When I compare myself, like I'm 50 years old right now, and I compare myself to friends who I went to school with, and you would not tell you can see their age. So physically, nothing wrong with me, healthy as hell, work out every day. As I mentioned, I'm a health nut, so constantly into various forms of training and exercise and such like that. So it's a journey I'm never planning on ending. It's one thing I'm learning all the time and always excited about. But the one thing I will never abandon is this lifestyle. And what I've done since I've been screaming in deaf ears over the years, when people stopped listening to me, I came up with the idea of how do I engross myself in the industry a little bit more so that I'll have more influence to talk to the people who are willing to listen. And now this kind of navigates into a little bit of what I did for my career and everything. When I was working in the past in agencies in Toronto, there were the typical sad diet everywhere around me and that. And I got the opportunity to constantly bring in food and things that people enjoy. so that I was able to live by what's the word? Example. Live by example, and people were following through with that. So, but I was still finding that this whole lifestyle was not something everybody wanted to be a part of. So I decided to leave the agency world, start my own design studio with my wife, which leads us into another question, but I'll hold that for a bit. But the idea behind that was to carry over my ethics, my morals, my beliefs, and carry them with me into a whole new chapter of my life where I was able to share what I love, believe, and understand with as many people as I can.
Now, that is a powerful vegan plant-based origin story. Incredible. And it's very uncommon to hear people refer to him as Anthony Robbins. So for those of you who are wondering, who the heck is that? It's Tony Robbins. So yeah, why don't we dive right into that next question, which is the entrepreneur origin story. Tell us a little bit about, did it start with Jeoto Design? Was it before? Were you an intrapreneur, then an entrepreneur? Tell us more about that.
So I spent a good 10 to 12 years working in agencies within Toronto of varying sizes and all different types of sectors, categories, and industries that we worked with. So that's where I learned most of what I know to a degree. Things were limited at the time. People were doing the same old, and it got me frustrated. You know, people weren't choosing to adapt and to pivot when it came to change. When they were seeing a challenge faced by them, they would fall short half the time with regards to what they wanted to do and how they wanted to push the clients. So I chose at that time, 13 years ago, to leave the agencies in Toronto. And as I mentioned, my wife and I then decided, let's start our own. And we have had our agency running consistently for almost 15 years. We changed the name a little while ago to Jeoto Design to reflect the pivot that we chose to embrace with COVID. This is actually prior to COVID. We made all these changes with a lot of late nights, deep conversations as to what do we want to do and how do we want to do things with regards to our studio. And we thought, we're going to get a brand new space. We're going to change the name. We're going to change the direction, change the philosophy, and look for a whole new category of people and customers to work with. So by doing that, it stimulated the creative juices. It got everything about what we do back to where we originate from, and that is the original creative, big ideas, great design work, and that's what we've been focusing on. But this goes hand in hand with two parts. We're serial entrepreneurs in our minds, meaning we're constantly thinking of new businesses, new ideas that we could pursue or be a part of. And we've been working with the food service industry for over 13 years. And it's a challenging category to be in any way, shape, or form, from manufacturer to suppliers, distributors, retail stores, carrying it, restaurants, all of it. We all know how hard they're being hit, how they're being strained and everything. But we've been working with them for over 13 years. And over the years, we've been thinking, why don't we start this cookie? Why don't we start doing this? Why don't we do that? And my wife's always been pushing me to say, you know, you've been doing this lifestyle for 25 years. We should be, you know, doing more, trying more products and things like that. But we chose, instead of ourselves taking on the task of coming up with a product and then seeing if it works in that, we thought, we're true creative minds. Why don't we help other people who are taking that challenge on themselves? And we can help them grow. We can help them succeed. We can help them achieve their dreams with our skills and our talents. So by doing that, we've pivoted, focused all our attention on trying to help eco-friendly, sustainable, vegan, plant-based companies to succeed. That's where that's where we're growing. That's where we're going. That's what we want to do.
Wonderful. So when it comes to the creative space, when it comes to big ideas, what are some trends that you've noticed over the course of the last 13 years with Jeoto and even before? What are some trends that you're seeing and noticing?
Well, biggest trend, and it's one of the greatest things I've seen ever, is the fact that so many people are adopting some form of plant-based, some form of sustainability, and some form of eco-friendly way of doing business. And it's our clientele, as I mentioned, is food service industry, but we also do health and wellness. We also do apparel. And all of those industries are really, really gravitating now to those areas, which is amazing because prior to that, to this day, it still is bottom line, cost. It's always about the cost. And the fact that you can have a sustainable vegan plant-based option for a manufacturer available, it always comes down to cost. They can have all the beliefs and understanding in play to want to change their product lineup or their packaging or their way of doing things. But if it's not feasibly financial, they are going to abandon it. But the trend that's been a wonderful thing to see, and it's been happening for a good, I'd say at least 8 years, and it just keeps, it almost like compounds itself. It's almost like doubling every year, is these actions that people are taking to find ways to not cut corners, but to improve those corners with a healthier, viable option.
Awesome, awesome. And in the future, where do you see Jeoto design going in the next 1 year, 3 year, 5 years? Where's Jeoto design going in the future?
So what we like to do, this is another thing, we've had another deep discussion about all this, and that is ideation consultation. So what we mean by that is there are so many startup companies out there, and this kind of circles back a little bit to people who are trying, like us, trying to help people who are, a company that started a vegan plant-based cookie. Great, the market is saturated, it's very difficult. So instead of them throwing their money in the wrong direction to get things started, our goal now is to use our consulting opportunity to help them streamline, think things through, see things from a totally different perspective, and understand things that may have never even come across their minds prior to even starting their business. So we are really, really focusing on that consulting portion of our business. Now, with the consulting, this might only, a 1 hour meet and greet and get to know your business. We can probably streamline and give them ideas right off the bat that will propel them into a whole new direction of success. Whereas they might say, great, can you execute that for us? And absolutely, we can do all those recommendations for them. But the direction that Jeoto's going is focusing primarily on consulting and branding, as well as original design. So coming up with those things that no one's done before.
Yeah, and how powerful we all know about where that launch pad and where you're starting from, and the time and the money and everything that goes into digging down a tunnel just to come back up and go down another one. And if you can start from that position in the very beginning, how much more efficient that actually is. So that's great. Ideation consultation. So when it comes to charity and charitable organizations, obviously the work that you do, you are focused on value, purpose, impact-driven people and companies. But specifically, does Jeoto Design, or has Jeoto Design, or is Jeoto Design going to be supporting any charities?
As the company itself, no, not right now. We will be looking for things in the near future. Personally, from a family standpoint, I've been donating and sponsoring. Well, right now we have a foster child that we're sponsoring in the Philippines, and we have been for years. And we've also, I'd say 20 years worth now, World Wildlife Fund. We were constantly monthly donations to them. Although I did have an issue with them recently, just simply because they were promoting big game hunting. at one point. I know it's a shock and it's like hard to believe, but they actually did. And they were justifying their actions by saying the money these game hunters give us to shoot a lion, it's helping to educate the world and keep our organization going. And I thought, no. There's other ways to do it. That's full of crap. So I recently pulled out from them, and I was thinking of donating to another organization in Costa Rica that was inspired by the TV show the series on Netflix from with Zac Efron called Down to Earth. And he was at a specific spot there, and it sounded like a fantastic place to help out.
Wonderful. So in terms of books, podcasts, and apps, this is a question where we get just a wide array of answers. Some people don't find themselves big readers, so they love an audiobook, or they don't really do anything except use apps on their phone to help improve business, lifestyle, mindset, anything like that. Earlier on, you had mentioned, Tony Robbins and the book Fit for Life. Are there any other books, podcasts, or apps that you would recommend people check out and learn more about?
So many. Oh my God. But it's one of those things, like I've been listening to audiobooks in particular for a very long time, for a good 12 years. And I honestly could say I've listened to over 1,000 books or so. So pinpointing which ones, it's a bit difficult to go backtracking. Obviously, Anthony Robbins is top of the list in regards to ones that changed my life. You can't even find that book again, but it doesn't matter because 90% of what he said is outdated. But currently, one of my favorite books, and this has got me even more excited about this group, a friend of mine recommended, it's called Tribe of Millionaires. And it's by the authors right here. His name is David Osborne and Pat Hiban, and you can find the book on Audible. It is awesome. Like, it is so good. You want to talk about change your life and change your perspective. And, I would recommend it to anybody just simply because the main principle is all about the people you surround yourself with changes your entire life, top to bottom. And the impact, you don't realize, like I didn't realize, I knew it, but I didn't realize it until I really heard this book. And what I also love about this book, it's not like your typical self-help book, which tends to be just factual, like it's very straight. It's just almost like a user's guide to life. This is a fantasy book. It's fictional, but it's all based on reality, life learning, and all those different things. So it's one of those things, I don't know about you, but I'll have an audiobook on while I'm doing mundane work. If it's somebody telling me how to live my life step by step, it's kind of like in one ear and out the other. But if it's a story like Harry Potter or something like that, I'm following along on one half of my brain and I'm doing the work on the other half. That's what I love about this book, because it has that quality and it can get you visualizing and learning at the same time. And the other book that I just recently read, and I thought it was fantastic, it's called Company of One by Paul Jarvis. And that one has you thinking about business, life in a very, very different way.
Awesome. Very cool. And the power, the first one that you mentioned, Tribe of Millionaires, hey, the power of proximity. Show me the 5 people you spend the most time with and they've all gone bankrupt a couple of times, you'll be the 6th. Show me 5 people that you spend the most time with who are donating millions of dollars to charity, you'll be the 6th. So the power of proximity for sure. All right. So almost here at the last one, but before we get there, second to last conversation starter for you, Jim, is based around inspiration. And you got a design studio. So maybe you draw inspiration from other design studios in your space, but oftentimes we draw inspiration from people and companies outside of our industry or outside of the specific niche that we are in. So with that being said, is there any shout outs in terms of inspiration?
Well, there's a design agency actually called Blind, And I don't know if they're up and running still, but they've evolved from being an agency that does work, creative work for companies, to being a teaching platform. And Chris Do is the creative genius who runs it. And he has, he's here on LinkedIn, and he has podcasts and all sorts of things. And it's called The Future. And I know you all have recognized him and seen his something of his out there, because he has dominated when it comes to putting out social media content. And yeah, he is an absolute genius, and a guy who everything he's touched has been enhanced in some way. So his teaching style is fantastic, because it's straight to the point, it's honest, it makes sense. So, and he's helped countless people. I mean, he's been in this industry longer than I have, I think, and he's definitely done some wonders out there.
Yes, Chris definitely has an immersive teaching style and superb communication skill set. Absolutely. Yeah. Before we move on to the last one, and it's okay if that's where you want to leave it, any other type of local companies or even global companies that you draw inspiration from?
When it comes to companies, I'm always interested in who's revolutionizing things, who's changing things up. And a great example, because I just did an article and I just posted it on LinkedIn talking about rebranding, for example. And Oatly is a great example, and it's been touched on by a lot of different people out there talking about it from different angles. But I love it just based on the graphic change and the impact it had on that company by having the right people do the right type of creative with the right thinking and put it into a $10 billion category on the stock market, which unfortunately is going down, down, down right now. But all said and done, you can't argue their success. And that had everything to do with the quality of the creativity.
Yeah, no denying Oatly's creative lens that they look through, from singing on Super Bowl ads to just in your face telling people that cow's milk is for baby cows, all that good stuff. So Jim, here we are. Last conversation started centered around advice. A lot of people, they don't necessarily like to be asked, hey, give some advice. So maybe it's look through more of the lens of lessons or things that you've learned that you're going to impart on others. So that is the last question for you that we have today, is when thinking about other entrepreneurs or business owners that are going to be listening to this, what is some advice or lessons learned that you'd like to share?
Sure. One thing I love doing is advice on all different categories. So sharing is my thing. So when it comes to advice for companies, doesn't matter what stage you're at, whether you're a startup or you've been in business for years and years, I highly recommend to break out of the norm, change things up, and analyze and evaluate what you're doing. Is it working? And if it is, great, but can it work better? A friend of mine, a really great friend of mine, always pushes me every single time. And he's like, yeah, that's a good idea. Make it better. And I'm thinking, I did a great job. That was excellent. What are you talking about? Make it better. And you know what? I make it better. And it's that type of thing where, okay, so you're making $100 million. Excellent. That's wonderful. But are your products ethical? Can you do things better? Can you find a better way to treat your employees? All those different things. So there's a million different ways that you can change it up. People become comfortable, people become familiar, and they choose to kind of stick with the norm. And my strongest recommendation is to break out of the norm, even if you don't have to. Always keep moving. That's important.
Fabulous. Very powerful. And reading between the lines also there, what I think we caught you say is hold those people close and dear to you, who are the ones that hold you to a higher standard, which inevitably is going to make you feel uncomfortable. But when you find those people who are going to hold you to a higher standard, hold those people close and dear, and do the same for others as well, as sort of, I think I gathered from the conversation that we've had as well, to sort of
nailed it. That's it.
give back, pay it forward type idea. Amazing. So Jim, before we outro you and let people know the company website and Instagram, is there anything that came up in this conversation today that you want to reiterate, or anything that maybe we missed, or any announcements that you'd like to leave the audience and the listeners with before we bid you adieu?
Well, I think we touched everything. I really, really love the idea of us as a group now, connecting, sharing ideas, hearing each other's stories, and understanding pain points, trials and tribulations. What have you gone through? What are you going through? And where do you want to go? And I love, anytime I meet somebody, when I say I like giving advice, whether anybody wants to hear it or not, I tend to give it. So that happens to be my thing, but it's always from the heart and it's always from experience. And, I'm the first to acknowledge if I don't understand something, I'll let the people know, and I'm love learning. I'm constantly open-minded and willing to hear every side of every story. And I have that ability to, no matter how dark or evil something might be, I can try to find the other side to it and try to evaluate instead of walking through the world in complete black and white. I'm consistently on the whole grayscale for me. And the idea of helping other people in different ways, that's the thrill, that's the excitement, and that's what I want to continue to do. And by doing that, it helps me. Like if I help just one vegan company succeed at dominating, for example, we'll go back to that cookie idea. They're the #1 vegan cookie on the market. It's just destroying everybody else. That's great. But what I love the fact of, I've converted a whole bunch of people who would have eaten a typical milk and egg based cookie, and they're loving this vegan cookie. So by doing so, I'm changing the world indirectly. And that's one of my biggest thrills.
All right, folks. Well, if you're a change maker, you're a world changer, and you want to connect, Jim is active, as mentioned in the conversation, on LinkedIn. So you can find Jim O'Quinn there. It'll sort of be in the show notes and everything like that. And you can find out more about Jeoto Design online, www.jeotodesign.ca, spelled Jeoto Design. And it's always nice when you get the exact same on Instagram. And there it is, at Jeoto Design, Jeoto Design. Thank you so much for your time and your story sharing today, Jim, and everybody else. Will catch you on another episode of Veg Networking Canada soon. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.